Explosions, stabbings. Today, I try to beat Fallout London with only using a knife. Now, the rules for this challenge are simple. I will only be allowed to use a knife in the fact that I can only use it to kill other people or harm other people. Now, I need to use my fists to get out of the starting cylinder I'm in, so that's the only part where I'm going to be using them, but I'm not going to be harming anyone with it. Now, I'm going to say for the start of this, the recording's going to be a bit messed up for about the first 2 minutes of recording, but then it should get better after that. Also, before I start, major spoilers for the entirety of Fallout London, so just keep that in mind when you're watching, but with that being said, let's get into this. I first started off by making my character, naming him Knife Man, putting 10 strength, some charisma, and some other miscellaneous stats. I took heavy-handed and hoarder as my traits. I then broke out of the tube. This is the only part where you need to use your hands, and then I get out of the tube and just walk around the facility, checking it all out. I'm getting shot at a bunch, but I find the little pit boy here. It's kind of like a London pit boy, but I use it to get out of this test room, and once I'm out of the test room, I come by this guy, and he's all mysterious, and so I just walk out of there, and then he comes onto the little television. So after him just talking for a bit, I find this door and actually find a makeshift knife. So I use it to kill all of the rats that were following me, which were all pretty easy. I then find this book called Protect and Survive, which marks a little landmark on my map. I then head towards this train where I'm able to hop in, and this begins the Fallout London experience with a title card. Cool, right? After the title card, we come out and we get a few debuffs, one being lab rat, one being railway spine. So we have to find ways to fix this. I come across this guy called Sebastian Gaunt, and he gives me a knife, which is going to be the centerpiece for this playthrough. So I then get a perk and take big leagues for the extra melee damage, and then I head my way towards Thames Haven to fix my broken spine. I kill some hooligans along the way, just reskinned raiders, but then I find this dog getting attacked by mongrels, so I help him out and attack the dogs, and then I talk to this guy and he's like, hey, those mongrels were actually my dogs. But after talking to him, I head towards Thames Haven, and then once inside, I just kill all of the leeches, and I actually get a level up, which I'm allowed to put into blacksmith to actually make my weapon even better. I then come across a resident of Thames Haven called Rachel, and she tells me, hey, I need you to help me out to find the ferryman. Now I go down to the sewers and kill some mirelurks, and then I come across the ferryman being attacked by a bunch of leeches. I then talk to the ferryman, and he tells me that we need to close a part of the sewer and kill all of the leeches inside. So I have to plant an explosive charge to close off part of the sewer, so it detonates, and then I go back and upgrade my balisong, and then I head into Thames Haven, where Rachel thanks me, and then I talk to the ferryman to get my next quest. After the quest is done, I talk to the Thames Haven doctor, Alan, and he fixes me up, making me no longer have railway spine. I then head towards this plane that I was told to go to, finding some mirelurks, and then I talk to this guy called Morgan. He tells me if I went inside, I have to clear out all of these eggs. So I go along and I just clear out all of these mirelurk eggs, which are pretty easy. I then level up picking Lone Wanderer. I then head into the plane after clearing out all the eggs, and then I find Archie. Now Archie tells me about underground labs, and he gives me a gun, which I can't use obviously, but I go talk to the ferryman, and he tells me he'll take me to one of the labs. So after going through a terminal and pressing a button, I'm able to hop onto the boat, and then I just get shot at by a bunch of hooligans. After I hop off the boat, I then kill some of these beef eaters, and I get their armor, which actually gives me some damage resistance. I then head up into the tower to get across the River Thames. I then run over to this beef eater and stab him, and then I got ganged up on by a bunch of beef eaters and knocked out. And then I decided not to fight them and just head to where I was supposed to go. So once I was there, I met up with Archie and the ferryman. They told me about the underground labs, so I head into the monument where one of these labs is. Once I'm inside, I look at this ruined lab, and I turn on the power, and then there are these turrets that just activated, and they are very difficult, but I'm able to get through them, and I open up this door, and I find a super clone. Now this guy was very difficult. He was one-tapping me. So what I had to do was get him on the rails, and I would just stab his legs. And then I would use VATS to get also some quick hits. So I was able to kill him, and then I returned to Archie and the Ferryman, told them about my findings, and then I leveled up from that, putting the point into Slayer, making me swing my blade faster. I then headed back to Alan and just did some trading with him, and then I upgraded my balisong, getting a serrated blade on it. I then headed towards the church that I was supposed to go to. I came across a barbershop where I found a magazine, which I didn't actually decide to use. It was a magazine for a free haircut. So I talked to this Frenchman outside of the church, and he told me to help kill these hooligans. So I killed the hooligans, and then he told me to go clear out the leader of the hooligans. So I head to their hideout, and then I killed the leader. Now, the leader was actually very easy. I just used VATS and was easily able to kill her. I then went back to the Frenchman, and he said, you know what, thank you, and I was able to come into the church. So once I headed inside the church, I met up with the bishop, and he said thank you and all that, so I completed the quest, giving me another level up, which I decided to put into toughness to give me more damage resistance. I then speak to Father Luke, and he tells me to find this ghoul named Lazarus. So I go around Lazarus's possessions, finding that he was selling chems to someone. So I go to this guy, and then I talk to his assistant and find out he was buying chems from Lazarus. So I tell the Reverend about it, and then he tells me that I gotta go find him. So I go to find Lazarus. Now, Lazarus was very far away, so I run to this diner where I kill some cultists, and then I head inside the diner, and I find this holotape basically saying what he was doing, and he was selling to a gang. So I head to go find him, killing some hooligans along the way. I run towards this place, and I talk to the syndicate leader here, and I just scare him into allowing me to talk to Lazarus. So I speak to Lazarus, and he tells me everything I need to know. So after getting information out of Lazarus, I then level up and put a perk into big leaders, and then I go talk to Alan, trading with him. After that, I then head to go to the Tommies. Now, when talking with the Tommies, I get inside, and they tell me they can give me a gas mask if I do some work for them. But I take a desk fan, and then I speak with the general of the Tommies, who lays out the plan, and then I upgrade my balisong, and then I head into the tunnels, where I kill some hooligans, and then I get into a fight with the glowing one, which I'm able to easily kill. After that, I head through the tunnels, killing more hooligans, and then I fight my way inside the Bank of England, which I have to clear out. I then get a level up, which I'm able to put into endurance training, and then I find some gold bars, which actually don't sell for a lot. So I kill more hooligans in the bank, and then I grab some keys, and then I get to the last part of the bank where I finish off the rest of the hooligans, and then I talk to the intercom because someone was actually trapped inside the vault, so I grabbed the bank key card after killing a glowing one. I then found Kiera in the vault and just talked to her, and she told me that she was trapped in the vault for quite a while. So after speaking with her, I then headed back to the Tommies, who congratulated me and gave me a gas mask. I then headed towards Islington, where I killed some hooligans along the way, and then I found this ghoul, and he was just pretty cool. So I just talked to him, and then once I went into Islington, I found these people, and so I helped them out, and then I just helped them all out, and then I had to clear even more of these Miller men, and then I gave a stim pack to this guy, and then all of a sudden, they just became hostile towards me, for no reason. So I just headed out, and then I took the perk toughness too, and then I headed into the sewer, where I killed even more ghouls, and then I just killed more ghouls as I made my way through the sewers, and then I made my way into Islington. Once inside Islington, I headed through the quarantine zone to this underground subway, and I found these angel conscripts, and I just killed them, and then I found my way into Angel Lab. Once inside, I found these clones in this laboratory. So I made my way through killing all of these clones, trying to figure out what it was. I then found this hand scanner that I could actually use to get through a door. And then I found my way in some reactor room where there was more of these super clones. So after taking them all out, I then put my hand into the scanner, and then these needles come in, and it actually cures me of lab rat. So I then shut down the reactor core, and then I find this guy on the monitor talking. And so after that, I take the medic perk, and then I head out from there back to the Islington subway. So after killing more clones, I head my way towards Westminster. So once I'm in Westminster, I find this Tommy guard, and he tells me about a big old crash that happened. So I find a card with a name Mr. Smythe. I then talk to the Parliament guard here, and he tells me I have to clear out a building full of Cavaliers to be allowed inside. So I clear out the building, and then I take the endurance training perk. After taking the perk, I head back to the Parliament Guard and I tell him of my success, and then he tells me, hey, you actually need to get a bunch of endorsements from different leaders around the groups of London. So I go talk to the leader of the faction in Camden. She tells me I have to clear out some hooligans inside of this building. So I go inside the building and I just clear out the hooligans. It was all pretty easy. I then go back and talk to her and she tells me, hey, you need endorsements. So I have to get endorsements from people. So I first help out a water treatment plant by clearing out some glowing ones that were radiating the water supply. So after clearing out all of the glowing ones, I come back and talk to her and she is thankful. I then talk to another leader in Camden about getting weapons for the group, but first I talk to this guy about giving water to the water treatment plant. So after that's all sorted, I'm able to get one endorsement from the pistols, basically allowing me to get one person to vouch for me to join. I then go talk to Miller, and he is another person that I need to convince to sign my petition, so I go do his quest, and it requires me to come talk to this guy, John Marsh, who basically needs me to come help find his wife. So I head towards the area and I find this guy called Bookie, and he tells me, hey man, pick up the sack. So I just do this little side quest for him, actually getting me a level up. So I'm able to put a point into Life Giver, and then I head to this little police station because I decided to actually go do the quest for one of the leaders of Camden first. So after getting that weapon supply, I go do the quest for John. So I come kill some gatherers. I then stop by Alan to cure my radiation because I got a lot of rads in the area where I was. So after that's all done, I find these guys called Famish, which are like kind of death claws. So I head into the London City Airport. Once inside, I have to clear out a bunch of ghouls in this airport, and then I find this terminal allowing me to unlock a door, and then I find his wife, which is fully ghoulified. So I have to attack his wife and kill her, and so I head through everywhere, getting me a level up, putting more points in endurance, and then I finally kill her for him, and then I come back to talk to him, but he's gone because he died, and he was in the graveyard. So I come back and tell Miller all the news, and he says, thanks for helping me out, and so he decides to sign my petition. I then talk to this guy, which won't sign my petition unless I have Charisma 10, and he won't even talk about it if I fail to check once. So I just reload my save and then decide to come back later when I had enough to get Charisma 10. I then talked to another leader of Camden, and after completing his quest, he gave me a gun, which looked cool. Sadly, I could not use it. So after completing that, I told Apache everything was done. I got both endorsements, and she's like, okay, you need a third. So I go talk to this guy, and he tells me, hey, go get some evidence on this guy. So I first fail a pickpocketing attempt on him, so I have to reload, and then I pickpocket him, and then I lockpick his door, and then I find some documents. I then head back to John and tell him everything I got, and then I get a level up, putting a point into Charisma, and then I go talk to Apache. She's like, thanks. And then I ask, will you sign my petition now? She says, you know what? Finally, sure. So I get my petition signed, and then I take some chems and then talk to this guy asking, would you sign my petition? And then I put Charisma 10, and yeah, he did. So I then head to this guy called Chief Roach, just scare him with my strength, and then I head to the palace. And then once I was there, they're like, okay, take the discreet entrance. And so I said, okay. So I head into this telephone booth, and then I get trapped outside because the bugs are just great. So once inside, I went through this little cinematic where I just went through the tunnel area, and a bunch of people got blown up, but I ended up in this jail cell. I then took a point in big leagues and then talked to this angel trooper, which had trapped me in this jail cell. So what did I do? I just kicked the door down, and then I ran through trying to find my weapons. So I found my weapons in a contraband bag, and then I just stabbed all the guards on my way out. So I made my way out to the Scotland Yard. Once I was outside, I had completed that quest, and then I had to head to this science museum. So I found these protectrons, which did a bunch of damage. So I easily stabbed through them, but I had to make my way up to the upper level. I also found some alien blaster rounds, which were pretty cool. So after making it through all of this, I found more angel troopers and stabbed them, found this guy called Mr. X. Now, Mr. X told me to blow up this place, and I just said, you know what? Fine, man, I'll just blow it up. So I talked to this greeter, and he's like, hey man, can you get rid of this robot for me? So I say, sure. So I have to give this robot 300 tickets, which is basically just bottle caps for Fallout London. So once inside, I talked to this lady and she gave me some explosive charge, but it cost like 575 tickets. So I then talked to this angel trooper, and I then sit down, and then I watched the explosions go off. And then after the explosions went off, Mr. Smythe's face went on the camera. Now, after that, this is where Act 2 started. Now, I'm just gonna gloss over this part because it's probably like 5 hours of footage. Now, there's not much about like, I guess, every faction storyline, so I don't know what each faction quest entails, so I have to go down every faction path. Mostly because this mod is so new and there's not much information about each of the faction paths. So the first path I went down was the 5th column, and they were pretty easy, but it ended because I had to get into a fist fight with this guy. Now there's a small frame where I could enter VATS without my weapon going away for this fight, so I was able to try and stab him, but he just died. So then the Mr. Smythe route, I had to use a flamethrower in the end, so those paths did not work. I then went towards Camelot, which was a bit different. So I first arrived at Camelot speaking to Lancelot, and then once I was inside, I just did some trading with all of the vendors just to get some more stim packs, Radaway, chems, all of the sorts. I then talked to King Arthur and watched a fight between two guys, and after the fight was over, I spoke to King Arthur, and he told me about everything that was going on in Camelot, and then I took the Lone Wanderer perk. I then had to investigate a fire that happened between two families, and then I found some dried blood, which led to a med pack, and then Timothy of one of the families came over, and then I found a book with a note saying that the Fletchers would burn down a building, and then I found that the Baileys were actually the ones that fabricated it. So I reported to Arthur, completing that quest. I then talked to Percival, who tells me to talk to Chief Roach and clear out the Tommies from this little area. So I just spread some rumors, shut off a generator, do all that. Then I speak to Chief Roach, and he's like, great. Okay, the next thing I have to do is smash a lantern, and then I have to spray some graffiti, and then spread even more rumors about the Tommies. And then after that was all done, I talked to Chief Roach, and then I like faked a robbery with the Tommies, and then I actually robbed them, and then I talked to this major of the Tommies, and he's like, you know what guys, we gotta get out of here. So I talked to Chief Roach, and he's like, great. So I then report my success back to Percival. I then become a knight after talking to Merlin, and then I take a level up and put the point into toughness. I then talk to Gawain here, which tells me that we're gonna like raid a facility full of hooligans. So I talk with everyone around the camps and the scout and just everyone, and then I say, you know what, I've read your report, and then I have to get these people back in shape to fight the hooligans. I then chase this guy who gets stuck, and then I talk to this guy Alex, and I just give him the right landmine to use, and then I talk to this guy after he unstuck, and then I talk to the scout, and then I kill some beef eaters that were around the area, and then I talk to the Fletchers, and then I talk to Gawain, and we were ready to storm the facility. I speak to everyone, and I just say, you know what, let's raid the facility. So once we're inside, we just stab everyone. It was all pretty easy. So I debriefed, and then I reported my success back to Merlin, and he says, great. And then I have to investigate some stuff with the Tommies. Apparently, someone bombed the Tommies. So once inside, I talk to this Lance Corporal, and then I fight my way through the subway, and then I find two Camelot Knights who were injured and had actually set off bombs. So I had to rescue their families from the 5th column, which had trapped them there. I then found a note from a spy that was inside of Camelot. I then rescued the families, and then I went back and talked with both of the knights. After this was all done, I headed back to Camelot and reported what had happened to Arthur and told him that both of the knights had resigned. After that, the Tommies had invaded Camelot, and we had to take them all out. After fighting through the Tommies outside, we headed inside and attacked all of the Tommies. I then found a pretty cool set of power armor, which I just thought was pretty cool. I then killed some Tommies that were trying to kill Percival, and then I talked to Arthur after everything had happened. After everything was done, we headed outside on the offensive against all of the Tommies. And then Arthur gave a big speech where we cleared out the final group of Tommies. After all of that was done, I spoke to Arthur, and then I spoke with everyone at the outpost to check if the outpost was okay, which luckily the outpost was okay. I then spoke with Arthur and told him that everything was all good at the outpost, and then I talked to Lancelot about finding the spy. So I talked to the Tommies and interrogate them about the spy. I then take a level up and put the point into Life Giver 3. I then find this little post box, and then it had a bunch of letters in it. So I'm able to read these letters. I then went back to Lancelot, who was drunk, and challenged me to a fight. Now luckily, in this fight, it allowed me to use my knife, so I got further than I would before. So I was able to beat Lancelot in the fight, and then find out that this guy was the spy. So I told Arthur about everything, and he told me to go talk to the Tommies. So I went to the Tommies and talked about everything and about making peace with Camelot. I then spoke to Arthur about everything, and he told me to find the general. Now, I looked for the general, and I found him. The general had died. I then took everything that he had, and then I drug his body out of the fields and put it into a wagon. I then talked to Kay, the doctor, and found out that he was shot. I then speak to the colonel about it and talk to Arthur about it. I then head to Westminster and find a spy for the Camelot. Once inside, we got to a party, and I had to plant like surveillance devices in all of these rooms, but I was only able to plant the devices in one of the rooms because I did not have high enough special to pass all of the checks. I then had to listen to this conversation that this doctor was having, and then I talked to the agent. After that, I found where Horatio was, and he was a leader of the fifth column. So I stabbed him, and then I interrogated him, and I asked for information. I then reported back to the colonel of the Tommies, and then the major of the Tommies was revealed to be a spy for the fifth column. So I talked to Arthur, and after that guy was fired and all that, we took the endurance training perk. I then talked to another Camelot knight, and I had to clear out the Tower of London for Camelot, because we were going to set up an outpost at the Tower of London. So after everything was cleared out at the Tower of London, I talked to Francis, and then we headed into a fifth column outpost, and then I smashed the generator in there, fought my way outside, and then I planted some coordinates at the fifth column base for the members of Camelot to attack. And then I talked to Merlin, and I had to go rescue Kay. So after stabbing many fifth column members, I rescued Kay, and then we attacked the fifth column. I just ran in and I stabbed the members of fifth column, and so I just went into the building, stabbed everyone, and then Eve had died. After that was all over, I met up with Arthur at the round table hold, and we would do the final assault on Westminster. So I had to wait 7 days in game. And then I met with Arthur outside of Westminster, where he gave a speech, and then I had to launch the catapult that would open up the gate to Westminster. So I launched the catapult, and then it blew up the gate to Westminster. Once we were inside, we just stabbed all of the troopers, and then I took the Rooted 2 perk, and then I just stabbed even more angel troopers. I then raised the banner of Camelot in the Prime Minister's office, and then I just kept stabbing. And then I opened up the gate for everyone, and then I took the endurance training perk. Then we raised the flag again for Camelot, and then I talked to Merlin. So then I made my way inside of the Parliament building, where I found myself in front of Parliament. So they gave a speech, and then they tried to have me killed. But I just killed all the angel troopers. I then fought my way through even more angel troopers, which I was able to kill pretty easily. And then I made my way to this part where I had to deposit my weapons, so it wasn't looking good after that. So I then talked to Mr. Smythe, which it turned out I was actually a clone of Mr. Smythe this entire time. So I just talked to him, but the game gave me an umbrella, and this is where it kind of ended. I could not beat the game without using this umbrella. So after that, I climbed the roof, and I just fought Mr. Smythe, and then I let him drop, and sadly, I couldn't beat the game with only a knife. So after watching Mr. Smythe drop, that was the end of Fallout London. Well, I thought I would be able to beat the game with only using a knife, but sadly I wasn't able to. But still, if you made it this far, thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed, and peace.